How's it going? This is Cliff. Today I just wanted to go ahead and let's try and do something we haven't done for a while. Let's do a actual sharpening. Got an old rusty machete. This is a Indonesian machete. It's called a bando, but it's like a parang style. Um, Fairly lightweight, super rusty. I did a couple touch tests to see if the corrosion was going to come off. We're going to go ahead and take this and remove the corrosion, and then we'll go ahead and talk about edge trailing, sharpening, and maybe even a little bit of shop safety today. So let me get this set up and I'll be right back. We'll get going. Okay, I think this angle is going to give us our best show of what's going on. And I haven't mentioned it before, but the importance of having safety glasses when you're working. A lot of times when I'm recording, I'm not thinking about that. When I'm working, I always am, but when I'm talking to the camera or showing something, I don't. So this is important. You always got your safety glasses, especially with any tools that are spinning, and you only get one pair of eyes. So eyeglasses are on. Let's take a look at our basic surface. Pretty rusty. I also have the Scotch-Brite belts, and we're going to take a look at using them in progression. These are Scotch-Brite belts that we have on our website, shop.currycustomcutlery.com. We have the tan, the red, the blue, and the new ultra-fine gray. So after we remove the rust with the Scotch-Brite wheel, then we'll go ahead and we'll do a wheel belt progression, and we'll see what that will get us for a fine satin polish. All right, here we go. This usually is really a quick process. The trick is to move in a steady fashion. The wheel, forgot to mention, the wheel on my machines are always going away. I work on the top, so if it ever is to catch or throw, it's going to go that direction. I use sound as a big part of my process, so I can hear it from the front and the back. I'm also being careful not to catch this fake edge on the back. And there we already have dust collection. Also is important. I have some fans behind me blowing this away. If I was in an enclosed area, or I should be wearing a mask if I wasn't talking to the camera. Probably easily the most dangerous tool in the shop is the bench grinder or the spinning wheel machine. But it also has the ability to do more quicker than just about anything else. These wheels also are porous, so they don't develop a lot of heat, which is really quite kind of surprising. So this is not red hot to the touch, or, you know, for those concerned about damaging temper, things like that. They tend to be cool, and they run cool too. Just getting a little bit off the ends, and that is, I'm going edge trailing on that fake edge up on the top, and just making very careful not to catch the front edge into this thing. You always want to go away from you, and hopefully everybody knows that, and that is that. Okay, I'll reposition, and we'll go ahead and go on to the next steps. I do have my glasses on for safety. When these things are brand new, they do kick up a little bit of material. They also just break in really fast. And once they're up and going, the blade's got a natural convex to it, so I'm going to use the slack belt for most of it. If I need to apply a little bit more pressure, I can go on the platen. And the thing for safety that you'll notice is that my fingers never come in front of the blade or on the side. If this was to ever to catch or kick the blade, I want my fingers to be upstream so that the blade goes this way and my hand is behind it. That's something I always try to be really conscious of. It's only about 1 out of 1,000 times that a blade will catch or kick. But you never want to have your fingers in front of the blade when that is to happen. So I just hold from behind and from the back. Let's go ahead and we'll get over to the blue Scotch-Brite, which is a fine. The tan is coarse, the red is medium. The blue is usually what I use for my finish. I find it's easier and safer to deal with this stuff before you put an edge on it. All right, let's see if we can get the camera in. So that's a fine satin polish. You will see the scratches. You will see the scratches going down, but it's like a factory satin. Let's see what the ultra fine gray does next. Once these get broke in, they're fine. You just got to give them a little help to get going at the beginning. Also, you can take and bundle them up and loosen them up and soften them up before you put them on the machine. Okay. So this should be a fine satin polish. It's got a nice luster to it, a lot of shine. Trying to get a little better angle than I did last time so you guys can see without having to see my shoulder in the way and my arm in the way. This should do it. We're going to start with a Cubitron P120. Sorry, Cubitron P80. It's been in use, but it's still got a lot of bite left to it. These things last longer than any belt on the market that I'm aware of at this point. Several independent YouTubers have done comparisons on how long they last, and I think they're #1. They also run about 30% cooler, so they last a long time, they run cooler, and they're amazing belts made by 3M, so they're products that we know. Okay. Not going to do the whole thing because we've got this all satin polished now, but I am just going to put a convex edge up here. It's super thin right now, and you can actually see where it's deformed a little bit. Maybe this is a really great opportunity just to talk really quick about edge geometry. So this is my own personal machete. It came from Indonesia. It's probably a leaf spring. And what I did is I decreased the angle to improve the cutting performance. And at a certain point, the material that I was cutting caused the edge to chip or roll or deform. That's great because now I know what the minimum angle is that that steel can hold, and then if you just increase the angle slightly, you've now kind of optimized the cutting performance for this steel hitting that tree branch. And if you're up at 20, 25, 30 degrees, you're losing all that cutting performance because you're worried about chipping or rolling the edge. Take it down, drop it down, find where it fails, then you know, and then you just increase it slightly. It's a beautiful idea, you know, the concept of doing that, because that way you're getting the performance. I had this set for cutting like banana leaves, and then it wasn't really set for chopping through hardwood tree branches, and that's what happened. So we're just going to go ahead and take that very thin apex and we're going to convex it out a little bit, and that'll give it the strength so it shouldn't happen again, and we still will maintain a lot of our cutting performance. All right, enough talky-talky. We're gonna go ahead and come in on the convex part at about 17 degrees. This is edge trailing freehand. And hopefully you see that little white bird pop right up. It's actually not little, that's large. That's all there is to it. Once you have a continuous line all the way across, you can stop. You don't need to grind any more material off. What's happening is the two edges come together, and then when they meet and you've apexed, the extra material that gets pulled off the end forms a burr that's very visible and it's very easy to see. So that's your visual reference to let you know that it's time to go on to the next step. There it is. And that's, I mean, it's huge, big visual. So edge trailing is very easy method to use, and that's why it's one of the most popular. Two, it's also the most safe method because your hand is always behind the sharp part, and like we talked about earlier, so it's going away from you. But really, I think the primary reason that it's used is because it's just so easy to see when you've apexed, and then the only thing left to do at that point is to remove that burr. So I'm going to go ahead and do one more step just to refine that edge, which is, honestly, it's not needed, but for today's example, that's all that's really needed. We're just refining the scratch pattern. The burr is still there. We haven't removed the burr. And then I have a leather belt right here. So we'll just go ahead and use the leather belt. I prefer to use leather belts with diamond emulsion, but if you're trying to remove a large burr, sometimes compounds are the way to go because they have a little bit more grip or stick to them. I don't like green. Green tends to be too gunky. Any of the other ones are fine. There's a dry green, that works fine. I like blue, works great. White is one of my favorites. White diamond also is not very gunky. So it doesn't leave, you will have some residue, but you won't have a huge amount of residue that you got to fight to get off. The green is probably the worst. And overloading the strop is probably the number one offense that I see people. So I'm just gonna give it just a little bit of compound. Put my safety glasses on for safety. And let me see if I can't zoom us in here a little bit closer. Let's see if I can do this with a camera in my lap here. The idea is I want you to be able to see, you see that little bird. Well, what we're doing is we're just moving. I'm not even pressing hard. I just want to see how that burr removes as I'm coming across. Now I'll flip it over, and you should start to see little bits of flakes of material. I'm not pressing hard on it yet at all. So you don't want to press too hard. You don't want to push in at too deep of an angle. You basically just want to match the flow of the surface that you have and let the leather and the compound pull that burr off. And there you can really start to see it coming off. Wonder if I can zoom in even a little bit. I certainly can. That's cool. See just a little touch of it still hanging out there. I'm not worried about it because you just go back and forth, and now it starts to pop right off. I'm going slow and taking my time just to demonstrate for the camera. I could have also increased my speed a little bit. Increasing the speed will allow the belt not to roll over the lip as much. Hopefully that's understood that this is an edge trailing process. You never want to go into a belt with a sharp object or it will cut the belt. I know, there's one little piece right there. I see it. You saw it. Okay, that's way overkill. Let's zoom us out and set it up. Okay, there we go. All right. So that is hair shaving. There's not even a lot of bite to it. And that brings me to my, I mean, it's super sharp. And by most people's definitions, I mean, it is sticking to the hair on my arms. I don't need to shave my arm of my hair. I don't need to press against it. It actually grabs the hair, starts biting in, and then as I move it along, it'll just start taking the hairs off. It's push cutting straight through phone book. So it's really sharp. But what you've lost is something I think is critical for if you're doing a draw cut, is maintaining some of that tooth or that bite. It feels like it's on glass. And what happens is this large feather burr gets developed, but then you polish it off. And there's no little tiny little teeth left to do the draw cut, to do the aggressive bite. And what I found is because the burr is an edge trailing burr, is it tends to be very thin, almost like tin foil, like we watched. It's very thin, kind of like gold leaf even, just very, very thin. And then that thin little material gets moved back and forth, and what you're left with isn't necessarily a weak edge once you've got the loose material removed. But in the process of removing that loose material, you end up buffing and polishing that apex to where there is no tooth left. And this is it. We saw it right there. If we want, we can take a look under the microscope. I'll do that probably on the next one when we do the toothy edge leading. The edge leading allows for a stronger tooth formation that then you can bring it together and maintain some of the tooth. It also has the disadvantages of being a little bit more dangerous because you're going edge leading. There's some safety concerns for that method as well. Other than that, this is definitely a way that you can get things sharpened. It's as easy as bringing something together and apexing it and then removing that burr. There's a dozen different ways to remove a burr. You could use a wheel. We have leather wheels. We have felt belts. You could use a hard buffing wheel. There's all different types of harder or softer wheels. There's all different types of compounds. There's diamond emulsions. Several years ago, I took probably a month and I ordered every compound, every wheel, and every combination I could try. And I started doing a series of experiments to see, you know, which method worked best for me. And the bottom line is they all work. You just need to adjust if you're using a softer compound, it's going to be more gunky. Maybe you have to speed up the belt a little more. Maybe you have to apply a little less pressure or a little more pressure. If you apply too much pressure while you're trying to pull the burr off, the leather belt will conform in and it will roll over the front edge, and that's how you get dull at the stropping step. So maybe it's sharp and then you go to strop. It's usually because either the angle is too high, the belt is going too slow, or you press too hard. All three of those things together will cause that leather belt or that felt belt or a wheel to push up over the top of the edge and round it off. And that's what we're trying to avoid here. Leather wheels work really good. I find they don't remove huge burrs as well as I would like. Something with a little bit more bite to it seems to work a little better for me. Let's just see if this will work. So there you go. That's a good way to sign it off, I guess. We have all these products available at our shop, shop.currycustomcutlery.com. Really appreciate you guys watching, enjoying the heck out of doing these videos for you guys. Try and put out one a week, and we'll keep going. If you have any suggestions for things you'd like to see me do, please put it in the comments down below. I really appreciate you guys viewing and subscribing, and thanks for your time.